Good morning, everyone. Is sound okay in the back? Cool. Awesome. Happy Sunday. Glad to have you all here. Welcome to the hop farm. We are going to move our bodies for about an hour this morning, just in a way that hopefully feels really good for you, whatever you need today. And as always with these yoga and beer, yoga and adult beverage classes, just taking what you need. I like to think of it like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? There's too much, too little, and then there's just right. And for you to find your just right this morning, which might be just laying on your mat and staring at the sky. It might be not walking through the hops, in case you weren't sure about the policy on that. It's a huge sign. But if you just want to wander down to the river, do whatever you need to do. This is your hour. If yoga, as we get started with the postures this morning, just isn't feeling good in your body or just isn't what you need, feel free to skip things, modify, and make it your own. Hopefully this practice is teaching us how to listen to our bodies and how to listen to what we need. And so I never take offense if you're just doing your own thing, because that means you're listening, right? So no pressure is all I'm trying to say there. I'm Mikki, if I've not practiced with you before, and we are going to get started lying down in a field of grass this morning. It's not a way. What? Oh yeah. Oh, that's a good start to class. I was like, wow, it's really exciting to lay down. That was okay. Did no one sleep last night? I'm just kidding. So let's start as we find the ground just in a comfortable position. Maybe that's legs bent, maybe that's legs straight, but starting that process of listening to your body. Right? What is comfortable as you find the ground? And starting to let the breath move in and out of your body, in and out of your shape. And feeling the breath's influence and effect on the parts of your body that you're already connected with. Where does your mind immediately kind of focus on? And the breath's effects on the parts of your body that you don't normally think about. Right? What are those kind of zones that you don't pay attention to? And then let's take both of your arms up overhead and just reach toward the back of the space. And if it's comfortable in your shoulders to let your arms, your hands fall on the ground, let them fall. If you need to bend the elbows a little bit to do that, just make it work for your shoulders. And let's reach a little bit longer through the right heel and the right hand. If you've got knees bent, they can stay bent. Don't feel like you have to adjust. And then a little longer through the left hand and the left heel. And then equally long through both. Just kind of like you're getting out of bed all over again. And then we're going to keep your back body flat on the ground. So we're not going to roll to a side. That's what happens typically here when we do this pose. We're going to start to move to banana pose. We're going to take both of your feet to the right and both of your arms to the right so that your body kind of turns into a big banana. But let the head be flat, let your shoulders and hips be flat, and it's just an elongation of that whole left side of the body. You can do this with legs bent if it's more comfortable, and the arms can bend or stack in any way that feels good for the shoulders and neck. And let's begin as we rest here for a few breaths to add a count to the breath. So starting at 1 as you breathe in, counting until you're full of air, and then starting again at 1 as you exhale and trying to match that count. So if you inhale for 4, exhale for 4. And then try to keep that balance, that rhythm to the breath going. And we're just going to banana to the other direction. So you'll come back through center and then legs to the left, arms to the left. If you bananaed that direction the first time, then go to the right instead. Let both shoulders, both hips get nice and heavy again. And then settle right back into that counted breath. So this balanced, even breath meant to find balance within our nervous system, right? So that happy place between fight or flight and rest and restore. This balanced breath also meant to balance the oxygen and carbon dioxide in our system. It meant to take our heart rate and bring it to a really good variation between the highs and lows. So your heart rate increases as you breathe in, decreases as you breathe out. And when we even out the breath like this, we get into this really predictable, steady kind of rise and fall of our heart. All of that to bring us back to balance, to center, to hopefully a feeling, a sense, a place that feels good to exist in. Let's take one more breath here like this. And then let's slide yourself back to center. And start to let the breath just settle into that even balanced rhythm, but without the count. But know that anytime in practice today that you start to kind of lose that sense of balanced breath, you could add that count back in. And we're going to bring your right knee into your chest, reach down and grab onto the right hamstring. So the back of the thigh, your left leg can be bent or straight here. And we're going to start to straighten your right leg, heel toward the sky as you inhale. And then bend your right knee into the chest as you exhale. 2 more times. Inhale, straighten. And exhale, bend. One more time. And then we're going to straighten that right leg and let it linger there for a few breaths. It does not have to get all the way straight, just as straight as it feels good for that leg to settle this morning. Option to stay here if this is plenty. If you want to start to wake up the low core, option to take that left leg and float it just a couple inches off the ground. But however little or however much you choose to add, try to keep that breath balanced and even. And try to maintain a sense within the breath of being calm and steady and safe. Notice that moment at which you add the challenge in where it starts to become kind of really active or unsettling as opposed to that calming and grounding energy. If that left leg is floating, go ahead and let it come on down. Rebend your right knee. And release your right leg down onto the ground. And we'll do that same thing on your second side. When you're ready, left leg comes in, hold on to the hamstring of that leg. Couple straighten and bends there, so inhale to straighten. Exhale to bend. 2 more times with your breath. And then we'll settle with that left leg, any amount of straight. Just breathing into that shape and encouraging release and softening over time there. If you want to start to add the core back in or the core in general, right leg hovers off the ground. And then we'll bring that right heel back to the ground. Rebend your left knee, give it a squeeze. And then release your left leg down onto the ground as well. And one more time, let's take your arms back up toward the tasting room, back overhead. Get super, super long. And then let's bring both knees into your chest. Reach down, grab onto your shins or your thighs. Give yourself a little hug and squeeze here. And then let's start to rock up and down your spine. And we're going to move ourselves up into table. So coming into hands and knees when you're ready, no rush. Wrists below shoulders, knees below hips. Couple rounds of cat-cow to wake up the spine this morning. Inhale, belly down, head and heart lifts. Exhale, round your spine, let your head fall forward. Inhale, cow pose, udder down. Exhale, cat pose. And seeing if you can maintain that balance with or without the count here between the inhale and the exhale. The length of time you spend moving into cow being the same length of time you spend moving into cat. And then the next time you move into cow, we're going to add a right leg lift into that. So heart forward, right leg back. And then as you come into cat, we're going to round your spine, bring your knee into your nose, nose to knee. And let's go back and forth there a couple times. Inhale, get long. Exhale, bring it in. How about 2 more rounds? And just notice the parts that you want to start to rush through or linger in. And we'll kick that right leg back one more time. We're going to cross your right leg behind your left, put the toes on the ground, look over your left shoulder. And just a breath or two into that outer right body. It's kind of like banana pose, but just a slightly different plane and orientation. And then let that right leg come back behind you, bend the knee, and come right back into table. And then let's do that same thing on the other side. So left leg lifts, belly down, heart forward. It's cow pose with a little extra flair. And then exhale, round your spine. Bring the nose in, the knee in. And a couple more rounds with your breath. As you take the leg back this time, we'll go ahead and cross it behind the right. Put the toes on the ground, look over your right heel, or right shoulder, toward your right heel. And then come on back. Head to center, left leg lifts, and back into table. Let's take your hands, take them as wide as your yoga mat. Let's angle your index fingers out a little bit, like 1 and 11 or 2 and 10 on a clock. Tuck your toes under, hips up and back. Downward facing dog with a little extra space today. And as you find that down dog, let's take your feet to the edges of your mat as well. So you've got arms wide, legs wide. And then just let your head fall between your arms. Really subtly and gradually, let's lift and lower the heels a couple times. You might pedal your legs, bending one knee and then the other. You might sway and swing your weight a little side to side. Noticing what the mind, the brain really naturally focuses on. Like, where does your attention always go when you come into down dog? Or where does it immediately go here as you settle in? And then maybe allowing the mind to also notice some of the things that aren't obviously apparent. And then let's start to roll forward toward a plank. We're going to keep your legs wide to start this morning. And you could still put your knees on the ground if you'd like. And we're going to spend just a couple breaths in plank, knees up or down. And just try to settle once again into that really even, steady breath in and out. Hips up and back, downward facing dog. As you find this down dog, go ahead and let your feet come on back to about hip width if they're still wide. And then if it feels good in your body, we're going to take your right leg, begin to lift it any amount up and back away from the ground. And then it doesn't need to be graceful, just find a way. We're going to bring your right foot forward between your hands, ground that back knee, and come on up into your low lunge. Make sure you have an even amount of weight in your front and your back leg. So right foot, left knee are evenly supporting you, evenly pressing into the ground. And then let's start to turn your gaze upward, any amount. Just keep the back of the neck happy. And maybe press your palms together overhead. Breathe deeply into the sides of your waist, the two sides of your ribs and your lungs. And then exhale, let your hands come down around your front foot. Tuck your back toes under if they're not already. And we're going to straighten your back leg. Just really press that left heel back, like there's a heavy keg behind that left heel that you're trying to slide back. And then exhale, rebend, let that knee tap the ground. And inhale, straighten. Let's do that 2 more times. Bend. And straighten. Last time, bend. And straighten. We'll let your hands find flat on the ground. And again, it doesn't need to be graceful. Just find a way back. Downward facing dog. So I'm going to give you the invitation to stay here. If down dog's not feeling great in your shoulders today, maybe you take some more cat-cow. If you want to keep adding on, we're going to come forward to plank. Let your knees come on down to the ground. Elbows point straight back as you lower toward the belly. And then as you come down onto the belly, go ahead and untuck your toes. We're going to actually walk your hands off of your mat, so you're going to have to touch grass. Pop under your fingertips. Bend your elbows like a little gecko. Also, kind of like a little cricket. We've had them all over our yard lately. And you're going to inhale. Start to lift the heart any amount as you press into your fingertips. Sort of wrap those elbows back. You're in control of how high you lift. And then exhale, come right back down nice and slow. We're going to do that a couple times, and you could play each time with a slightly different position of your hands, maybe little by little working those hands further back or closer in or further out, just feeling a freedom to explore there. How about one more? And then we'll bring your hands right beside your rib cage, hands flat, elbows pointed back, and we'll push up into hands and knees for table, and then your downward facing dog. Notice the balance, the ratio of your breath. And then if it makes sense in your body, left leg lifts up and back. Any old way that works, foot between your hands. Back knee to the ground. Come on up into that low lunge with an even amount of connection and effort between the front and the back leg. Perhaps you start to take your gaze upward. And perhaps you press your palms together, kind of feeling the hands coming together, not necessarily just from the hands, but deeply in the upper back. And then hands come down around that front foot. You can be flat palmed or you can be on fingertips. We're going to tuck your back toes under. Inhale, straighten the back leg. And exhale, bend that back knee. 2 more times. Feeling that heel lengthen straight back, like you're trying to slide something off of your yoga mat. And then we'll straighten that leg one more time. Plant your hands flat, and again, find that journey back to downward facing dog, where you always have the invitation to stay or to change it up a little bit, Or we go through what we call vinyasa, so that flow forward to plank. Knees up or down, we're going to lower toward the belly. That's called chaturanga. And this time, let's keep your palms right by your body. Inhale, start to lift your heart, your shoulders. You might keep it low. You might lift up a little higher, just like last time in Cobra. Back to the belly, exhale. We'll press up through table. Maybe some of you plank if you're feeling extra feisty this morning. And downward facing dog. From this down dog, let's rise up onto your tippy toes. Start to look toward your hands. We're just going to meander your way forward, walking your feet toward your hands, maybe a little bit of hands toward feet. Bend your knees as much as you need to, and we're going to end up folding over your legs. Let the arms dangle, let the head dangle. Maybe you take a little bit of weight shift from side to side, shifting into the right foot and the left foot, and let your torso really slowly swing between the two legs. And then sort of with that zigzag sway, we're going to bend your knees and let yourself roll up little by little to standing, but perhaps adding a little side to side movement in that rolling up. And we'll end up standing, taking two hands to the sky. Again, maybe you look up, maybe the palms press. And exhale, palms come together and down into the heart. And we'll start to move just a little bit more. Inhale, hands reach. Exhale, any amount of bend to the knees, we're going to fold over your legs. Notice the parts that you want to rush through. Fingers come onto your shins. Inhale, halfway lift. Let the crown of the head go straight forward. And then exhale, fold. Inhale, rise up, reach up. And exhale, hands to heart. Again, inhale, let's reach. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, let's fold. And we're going to come right back up to standing, taking your hands skyward. We'll keep your hands there. Lengthen up through both fingertips, or both sets of fingertips. Lengthen down through both heels. And then exhale, let's take your right hand down your right thigh, left arm up and over. Inhale, back up to center. And to the other side. Inhale, come on up. Let's do each side 2 more times, allowing yourself to find a little more freedom of movement into that lateral side bend each time your body visits the shape. And we'll take both hands up toward the sky again and bend your knees, both hips toward the ground. It's a nice way of saying chair pose. Hands at heart or hands to the sky. Couple breaths here. Just find that stability, that balance between the in-breath and the out-breath once again. One more full inhale here. Exhale, let's fold. We're going to keep your right foot where it's at. Take your left leg back into your lunge. And if it works in your body, let's put that back heel down on the ground. Let those left toes angle out. We'll bring both hands up to the sky. So we're facing the front of your mat for a warrior one-like experience. And then we're going to grab your left wrist with your right hand, pull up and over toward the right. So away from your back leg. Keep rooting into that back foot for stability. And then go ahead and come on back to center. And let's bring your hands down by your sides, reaching slightly back behind you. And we're going to lean forward. I like to think of this like a superhero cape. So if this starts to bother your low back at all, you're going to bring your hands to your front thigh and just give yourself some low back support. With those hands in the superhero cape, we're going to turn the palms to face away from you. and swim those arms forward. That's going to be your inhale, and then we'll swim the palms away from you and back as you exhale. Couple rounds there. Inhale, take those arms wide and forward. Exhale, wide and back. The nice thing about 6 feet required distancing is we have room to do things like this. All right, one more time forward. And one more time back. And then let your shoulders come back up over your hips, hands to the sky. Look forward, let your eyes find a steady, unmoving point to gaze upon. And we're going to step into that right foot, bring your left knee up into your chest. One big step or a bunch of little ones, just make it work. Give that left foot something imaginary to press into, so it's almost like you've got a step or a box there that you're pushing that foot into. And then let's start to take that left leg out toward the side and place that foot on ankle, calf, or thigh for tree pose. Notice the ratio of your in-breath and your out-breath. Hands can come wherever feels good. Trees grow branches in their own way. 2 more breaths here. If you step out, just bring it back to that sense of steadiness, that sense of calm coming from your breath. We'll bring that left knee back forward and step that left foot all the way back behind you into your lunge. Let the hands come up to the sky one more time. And then hands come down around your front foot. And let's make your journey back to downward facing dog. Listening to the breath, what the breath needs. Maybe you stay, maybe you inhale into plank. Knees up or down, we'll lower to the belly, elbows point straight back. Inhale, cobra of any height. Really let the front of the shoulders open. And downward facing dog in your way, your style. Feel a full breath in. Feel the full breath out. Let's bend your knees, lift your heels, look toward your hands. And those of you that want to hop can, or you can walk or stroll or step to the top of the mat. Just don't walk through the hops. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees, come on up into your chair pose. Just watching and observing those moments where it starts to get unsteady. The effect becomes kind of uncalming as opposed to calming. We have more than enough uncalming influences in the world right now. And then root into those heels, straighten your legs, stand up. Keep those hands reaching skyward. Feel that length evenly to the through the 2 sides of your body. And then left hand down as you exhale. Inhale, back up. Right hand down, exhale. Inhale, bring it back up. We'll do each side one more time. Left hand. And up. Right hand. And back up. Palms come together. Exhale, fold over your legs. Inhale, halfway lift. And as you fold, we'll take your right leg back. Ground that back heel. Let the toes angle out, and we come on up into your warrior one. So it's just a lunge facing the front of your mat with that back heel down. Hands come on up to the sky, and again, you add that even length up the 2 sides. And then let's grab your right wrist with your left hand and pull toward the left, away from your back leg. Root into that back heel. Settle back into that balanced, steady breath. And we'll come back up, release the wrist, put your superhero cape on, hands reach down and back, and then take that little tip forward. So remember that option to put hands on front thigh is there if you need it. What that helps you to do is to ultimately gather the low belly to fill the low back. So if you're feeling that tenderness, use the hands. Or we'll start to find that kind of snow angel sweep. So palms turn out, hands go out and forward. Exhale, swing wide and pull back. Inhale, out and forward. Exhale, out and back. How about 2 more? And then we'll let your shoulders come back up over your hips. Hands to the sky. Gaze is steady. And when you feel steady and prepared for balance, shift into that front foot. Bring your right knee into your chest. Give that leg some purpose. And then start to take that right knee out to the side. Right foot on thigh, calf, or ankle for your tree pose. And let your branches settle into branches that feel authentically yours. Noticing that you can create that sort of inner steadiness, inner calm, even when your body feels very unsteady. Let's turn that right knee forward, hands to the sky, and right foot back. Settling into that lunge for your inhale, and then exhale, hands around your front foot. Back you go, downward facing dog. So same options that we've had here as we visited a couple times. You can stay, you can take some cat-cow, or roll through that vinyasa, plank. Reverse push-up toward the belly. Back bend of your choice. And downward facing dog. Take your time. With your next inhale, if it feels good in your body, let's take that right leg, lift it toward the sky. And then use the power of your exhale to bring that right foot forward between your hands. Let's keep that back heel lifted. Come on up into your crescent lunge. Hands can be skyward or at heart, whatever feels nice for the shoulders. And sort of like we did earlier with hands down on the ground, we're going to bend that back leg and then straighten. We're going to do that 2 more times, and each time I want you to try to minimize how much the rest of the body moves. So really try to isolate that into the back leg. And then we're going to straighten that back leg. Let your hands come to your heart. We're going to tip forward over that front thigh. Those of you that balance just isn't feeling like your friend today, you're going to stay with 2 feet on the ground. Those of you that are keen to fly, we're going to come on up onto that right leg. Does not matter how high that back leg is off the ground, but if it starts to lose its juice, it feels kind of heavy, like a liability as opposed to a helper, put a little bend in the knee and then re-straighten like the cartoon dog that's on the hunt of something and its tail's like boing. We're here for 3 more breaths. So if you're game to add 1 more challenge in, let's take your hands back into that superhero cape wherever you're at. Turn the palms out, swim them wide and forward. As you take them forward, it's going to require your core to fire on a bit, and then turn those palms out and swim them back. That's your exhale. 2 more. Inhale, take the hands forward. Choose the options that work for you. Exhale, swim back. 1 more time. And then from wherever you're at, we're going to come into chair pose, nice and slow. Both knees bent, 2 feet on the ground, hands at heart or hands to sky. Feel as though you're hugging something between your legs, and we're going to play with rolling up onto the balls of the feet. Stay here, or start to lay the belly toward the thighs. Hands reach down and maybe back. Drinking bird. This is in honor of your hummingbirds in your fountain, Dawn. And then heels down, all the way up to standing. And exhale, palms together and into the heart. Let your eyes get still and steady, or let your eyes close completely. Feel the movement of your breath in and out. Maybe you add that count back in if that's helpful. When you're ready, we'll take hands wide and up. And exhale, fold. Halfway lift, inhale. And then we'll fold and make your way back to downward facing dog any way that suits you. Maybe it's through that plank chaturanga movement. Maybe it's just a stroll back. Let's settle in your down dog for maybe about 3 more breaths. And I want you just to see if you can encourage a little more weight back into your legs, right? Where the legs are doing at least 50% of the work, maybe 60 or 70% of the work. Heels lengthening toward the ground, even if they don't touch the ground. And thighs pressing straight back toward the tasting room. Nice. Left leg to the sky, if that makes sense in your body, let the head be heavy. Foot between your hands. Good. Come on up, back heel off the ground, crescent lunge. Hands can be at heart or skyward, just listen to your shoulders. And then we'll put that bend in your back knee as you exhale. And inhale, straighten the leg. And each time we do that, we'll do it 2 more times. Just try to minimize how much the rest of the body moves. We'll give that back leg some juice. Start to tip forward, let your hands come to your heart. Be really honest and kind with yourself. Maybe this is the place for you to be today. Maybe you come on up and take flight. If that back leg at any point feels heavier, more heavy than it is helpful, maybe you put a little bend in the knee and then boing, give it juice. And then you've got 3 more breaths. Stay where you're at or put that superhero cape on, turn the palms out, swim the hands out and forward. That's your in-breath. Exhale, palms turn out and pull back. 2 more times. Wherever you're at, maybe a little smile on your face. Soften that spot between your eyebrows. So focused. And then we're going to come into our chair pose from here. Knees bent, feet under hips. Hands skyward or at heart. If it makes sense, roll to the balls of the feet, heels lift. Feel like you're hugging a growler of beer between your thighs. Stay here or begin to tip yourself forward toward that drinking bird shape. Heels down, legs straighten, come all the way up to stand. Palms together and exhale, hands into your heart. Eyes closed or gaze dropped. Settle. Let's start to wiggle your feet out as wide as your mat. Toes out, heels in. And let's start to bend your knees. Stop 1 is going to be football coach, elbows on thighs. Stop 2, malasana, squat, hips drop down. Does not matter if the heels are on the ground. It has less to do with flexibility and more to do with just the structure of your body, so don't try to force it. Hands can be on the ground, or you could have hands at heart. Wherever you're at, just let there be a great sense of length for your low back. So whether you're halfway down or you're here, really feel that kind of any congestion in the low back starting to clear. And if anyone is game for this, no pressure, but if you want it, the grass is the perfect place to play with this. Hands on the ground, knees to the back of the arms. Think one huge Suzanne Summers thigh master, hug everything in, and maybe you lift one foot, maybe both feet. Little crow pose. You've got 3 more breaths wherever you're at. And if you're like, I'm over it, the next destination is sitting on the ground. As you find the ground, soles of the feet together, knees open. Hands on ankles, shins, or on the ground beside you. All of those are great. Sit up tall. Close the eyes if that's comfortable, and encourage your 2 sit bones, so the 2 sides of your pelvis. Just the little bony prominence on the bottom. That's your sit bone. Feel the 2 sides and just do your best to let left and right evenly unwind into the ground. Using that kind of symmetrical support in the low back to create even space as you move up. So even space left to right, the 2 sides of your lungs, the 2 sides of your ribs, evenly open for breath. The 2 sides of the neck and shoulders evenly unwinding, even though most of us has one that's a little tighter than the other. Can you create that balanced release? We're going to be here for a handful more breaths. You're welcome to stay upright if you'd like. You're also invited and welcome to tip forward over your legs. But just notice if you start to tip, what happens in terms of space. Can you maintain that space front to back, side to side for your spine? If you tipped forward, let's go ahead and come on up nice and tall. Hands to the outer legs will help press those legs together. And we're going to hold on to the backs of the thighs. Lean back until those arms are relatively straight. And then lift your heart. Let the shoulders move back. Nice. Option to stay here. This is kind of chill boat pose. Option to start to float the feet up off the ground. But notice as those feet float if you sink. We don't want our boat pose to sink. You can stay here if you'd like, or no hands. Put that imaginary growler back between your thighs. Hug it in. Stay here, or start to straighten your legs. If you're feeling a lot of gripping in the front of the thighs, put the hands back on the hamstrings and try to push your hamstrings into your hands. And that's going to turn off that gripping. Maybe a couple more breaths with a smile on your face. Yay, boat pose. And then bend your knees. Sit up nice and tall. Take your legs out wide. If you want to turn sideways on your mat so you're not in the grass a ton, feel free. Your wide is determined by what feels comfortable, which might not be all that wide, and that's okay. Try to keep your toes pointing skyward. And let's start with the hands slightly behind you, not to lean into, but to push the ground away to help you again get up onto those sit bones. Some of you are going to stay here, and some of you might walk it forward. The grass is kind of helpful here because you can claw and gently pull. Gently being the key word there. And unless you grew up as a ballerina or a dancer, just let go of any desire to lay your belly on the ground or to fold in half here. Like, it's just not, normal human bodies don't move that way. So just let yourself find that angle from the ground that feels like your low back can still be really heavy on the ground. Like you still have a lot of space and room to breathe without any sort of force or strain. And let's spend just a few more breaths here and see if you can create more space between the rib cage and the pelvis, but not because you pulled yourself further away from the legs, but because the low back settles more into the ground. If you're tipped forward, go ahead and walk your hands in. I'm going to recommend that you help your legs, so grab a knee, bend, pull it in. Other side. I'm not going to make you do boat pose again, don't worry. Hands on shins or thighs. Brace yourself as you round back just a little bit. Make sure you have some room to lay down here in a moment. Inhale, pull on the shins or the thighs, belly toward the legs, heart up. 2 more times, round back. And lengthen. Round. And lengthen. And then this time as you round back, you're just going to keep on going all the way down to the ground. And let your knees come on into your chest. Support your legs with hands on shins or thighs or arms hugged around the legs, whatever makes sense for the body there and your proportions. And maybe find a little shift of weight side to side, just a roll across the back there. And then go ahead and let your feet come on down to the ground with the knees bent. Left foot's going to stay. Let's bring your right ankle to your left thigh. Let that right knee fall open. Option 1, stay here. Option 2, bring your legs in toward the belly. Reach through and grab onto your left thigh or your left shin for thread the needle. And just do your best to keep the head really heavy on the ground. I'm going to give you one more option for this shape this morning. But on a scale of 0 effort to 10 being all the effort, let's try to keep this like a 3 or 4. So if it makes sense for your body with minimal effort to shift your hands onto your right leg. So I like to hold the foot with my left hand, the knee with my right hand. Just sort of hold the leg in space there and then allow that left leg to release down onto the ground. It's pigeon pose on your back. And the hands are simply holding your leg in space. They're not deepening the rotation or the angle. They're not cranking on that leg at all. And then slowly, from whatever shape you've created, go ahead and release both feet back to the ground and both knees bent. Take a full breath or so at neutral with your body relatively symmetrical. And then we'll do the second side, left ankle, right thigh, knee falls open. This side might need something completely different than your first side. So maybe this is the option. Maybe you start to bring the legs in, you grab onto the right thigh or the right shin, and even if you know you're going to take it one step further, spend at least a couple breaths here, allowing the left leg to find this rotation. We didn't do a whole lot that was externally rotated this morning. And then if and when it makes sense, hands support that left leg, knee and foot, and right leg releases down onto the ground. And again, just do your best to not use the arms and the hands as a lever. You're not changing the left leg, you're just holding it in space. And then from wherever you're at, let's return 2 feet on the ground, 2 knees bent. Let's wiggle your feet as wide as your mat. Knees stay bent. And we're going to drop both knees toward your right. And just keep wiggling those low legs around until ankles, knees, hips, low back are comfortable. Let this feel kind of like a plop. Just let everything get really heavy with gravity, starting that deep unwinding into the support of the ground. Let's ease those knees back to center. And we'll plop to the other direction, knees to the left. And let's ease the knees back to center. If your body needs one final or any final movements or shapes, feel free to take some time. And the next destination is our place of release and relaxation. So Shavasana, king size bed to yourself pose. Spread out, get comfy. I know that that sun is really bright through the clouds this morning, so you might throw a shirt or something over your eyes. If it would be more comfortable for you to be seated or on a side, also an option. And the way that we place our body influences, just like our breath, influences our nervous system, our ability internally, physiologically to feel safe, to feel at rest. Just making sure that however the body is placed, it feels easy, calm, feels restful and peaceful. And then allow yourself to linger in that space. Allow your next inhale to deepen just a bit. And your next exhale to release fully and completely. From there, allow your breath to find its rhythm once again. Start to add movement back into your body without any rush. Just start small and gradual. Take your time to eventually make your way up to a comfortable seat. No rush. As you find that seat, just stay with yourself a little while longer. Let the palms come together in front of your chest. Honoring the space within that you've created this morning and carrying that space and the tools that this practice give with you in your breath and in your body to find that inner calm and that inner balance over and over again as you navigate your days and weeks ahead. The light within me honors the light within each of you. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.